Hi guys, today we are going to see about transducer engineering. Here we are going to see some of the basic concepts, that is what is transducer, what is the difference between a transducer and a sensor, and what are its various characteristics and some of the examples. First we'll see what is the difference between a sensor and a transducer. When you're seeing a transducer, it converts an energy into a measurable output. That is, it converts energy which can be converted into a usable form. Whereas a sensor is, it senses energy, it converts from one form to another form, but there is a big question mark whether it is a measurable one or it cannot be, whether it is a usable one or not a usable one. Okay, we'll see some of the examples for transducer and sensor so that we can have a better understanding. For example, a transducer is a strain gauge with a signal conditioning circuits. That is a strain gauge with all its signal conditioning, a thermocouple with all the conditioning circuits. That is a transducer. Whereas a sensor is, it is just a strain gauge or a thermocouple. So we can say a sensor is a device that is converting a energy into another energy without the next energy. It may be a usable form or it may not be a usable form, whereas a transducer will convert energy from one end to another end in a measurable form or in a usable form. We'll see some of the basic blocks in a measurement system where you are giving a physical quantity which is to be sensed, that is through to a sensor. Say example, a signal or a strain gauge or a thermocouple. Okay, so this sensor will convert the physical quantity into a electrical quantity or a non-electrical quantity, whatever it may be. Then it is taken to a signal conditioning circuit. So from this block diagram we can say that the combination of a sensor and the signal conditioning is a transducer, and from the signal conditioning it is taken to a data representation format. So the basic blocks in any measurement system will have three different blocks, and they are a sensor, a signal conditioning unit, and data representing device. We'll see it one by one. First, a sensor. A sensor is a device which is used to detect changes in the input side, and it represents the change. So the changes may be of any form and it reflects in the output side. Example, a strain gauge, a thermocouple, a piezoelectric. Without a signal conditioning device, all those are the sensors. We'll see what about the signal conditioning units. So the signal conditioning units are the units that will convert the output of a sensor into a usable form. Okay, so here the signals coming from the sensor so that it can be converted into a usable format. So some of the examples of the signal conditioning circuit that we'll see here are amplifiers. Okay, so the amplifiers are, they'll amplify, that is the level of the signal will be increased here, and then attenuators, the level of the signal can be decreased here, and then the filters. The filters, we know that it will particularly take one particular frequency. Say example, if it is a low pass filter, it will take only a low frequency signals, and if it is a high pass, it will take only the high frequency signals. And ADC, analog to digital converter. So this then rectifiers, we know it is rectifier is it converts a bidirectional signal into a unidirectional signal, and modulators. So these are the signal conditioning units which can be incorporated with any sensor, so that the sensor and the signal conditioning unit are so that the sensor and the signal conditioning units can be taken, or it can be considered as a transducer. And the data representation device. So we have various types of data representation device. The conventional one is a scale type. That is, it is like a you have a dial, and the output is shown in the dial. And then now we are having a LCD display. Now we are moving towards a digital era. So here we have a LCD display. Everything is displayed in numbers so that I can see it. The scale is an analog module, whereas this LCD display is is a digital module. And then signal recorder. That is, by means of graphs we can record the measurement signal, or we can record the data. So we can say a measurement system is a combination of a sensor which is sensing what's going on, and then it is converted into a usable format through a signal conditioning. and then it is represented in a data representation format. So a sensor and a signal conditioning together called as a transducer. We'll see more examples. So we'll take one more example called a strain gauge. So we know the strain gauge, the name itself implies it is measuring a strain. So how a strain is, what do you mean by a strain? A strain is a physical quantity which is created by placing a weight or placing a force. So the force is converted into strain. In a strain gauge, it converts a strain into resistance. Okay. So however, the resistance could not be further processed in a electrical circuit, because in an electrical circuit everything is processed in terms of voltage or current. So we are in a need to convert the resistance into a voltage. So there comes a Wheatstone bridge circuit which converts a resistance to voltage. Now I'm having a mechanical input. It may be a force or a force or a weight. It converts that force or weight into a resistance through a strain gauge, but I cannot process this resistance. So in order to process this resistance, I am in a need to convert the resistance to voltage. So for that we are using a Wheatstone bridge circuit. However, the voltage obtained from the Wheatstone bridge circuit, it may be or may not be in a position to run a data representation device, because all the data representation device require at least 5 volt, whereas our voltage from a Wheatstone bridge circuit, it may not be in a position to produce the maximum 5 volt. So in that case we can use for an amplifier in order to increase the level of the voltage. So here a strain gauge is a sensor. Along with the strain gauge you are using a Wheatstone bridge circuit and an amplifier. They are the signal conditioning elements. So strain gauge is a sensor and Wheatstone bridge and amplifier is a signal conditioning circuits. So overall a strain gauge, a Wheatstone bridge and an amplifier is a transducer. So this will give you a more understanding, I think. So we'll go for different types of transducers. The first transducer is, that is depending upon the physical effect that happens during measurement. For example, you will be having we know the transducer or they are the devices that are converting a energy in one form to another form. In most cases the energy in one form is a physical quantity, like a flow, a level, a pressure, or whatever it may be. So it is a physical quantity. So the physical quantity will be converted into a electrical quantity by means of some variations. So the first variation, if it is in terms of resistor, say example, it is called a resistive transducer. We'll take this example, a thermistor, where the change in the temperature produces a change in resistance. So thermistor is an example for a resistive transducer. So when you call a thermistor, you can call it as a resistive transducer, because the change in the temperature, a physical quantity, a change in the physical quantity produces a change in the produces a corresponding change in its electrical quantity. What is its electrical quantity here? It is a resistance. Similarly, in a strain gauge, the change in the physical quantity, that is a change in the strain, produces a change in resistance. That's why it is called as a resistive transducer. When you come for LVDT, it is linear variable differential transformer. When you come for LVDT, the displacement produced in the displacement given to one LVDT produces a change in the inductance. That's why this LVDT is called as inductive transducer. When you come for a pressure or a displacement measurement, this displacement, a change in the displacement produces a change in the capacitance of the circuit. So that's why this type of sensors, a pressure or a displacement transducer, may also be called as capacitive transducer. And one more thing, so previously what we have seen is that types of transducer is based on the physical effect it is producing. Here we are going to see What about the transducers can also be classified based on the quantity it is measuring. For example, if it is measuring a level, it may be called as level transducer. For example, if it is measuring a temperature, it may be called as a temperature transducer. So based on the physical quantity to be measured. Example, a temperature transducer. So the RTD, thermistor, thermocouple, these three transducers are measuring temperature transducer, or they are measuring temperature. Bourdon gauge, bellows, these are measuring pressure. So these are called as pressure transducers. A flow meter, this measures flow, therefore it's called as flow transducer. A LVDT, it is measuring displacement, therefore it is called as displacement transducer. Accelerometer, it is measuring acceleration, so it's called as acceleration transducer. Okay, so this is a second type of classification. The first type of classification is based on the physical effect, that is how the transducer is converting the physical quantity into an electrical quantity. Depending upon that, it was classified. Now what type of quantity is measured by this transducer, so depending upon that, it is classified now. Okay, the third type of classification is based on the requirement of energy. For example, for a requirement of energy, so if a transducer requires an excitation input, it is called a passive transducer. If it doesn't require any input, then it is called a active transducer. Example, in active transducers, there is no excitation input is required. Example, thermocouple and piezoelectric. Okay, then passive transducers, excitation input is required. Example, strain gauge. We can give numerous examples for passive, also for active transducers. So active transducers are the transducers that doesn't require any input energy in the sense excitation energy. Passive transducers are the transducers that require an excitation energy. We are going to see now the types of transducers, where one more type of the transducer, that is depending on the mode of conversion. Depending on the mode of the conversion, in the sense the transducer may be classified into two types called transducer and inverse transducer. One is converting a physical signal into electrical signal. Example, strain gauge, RTD and thermistor. So these are the transducers that are converting an input which is a physical quantity into an electrical quantity. Say example, strain gauge converts a strain into resistance. RTD converts a resistance temperature detector, it converts a temperature into a resistance. Similarly, thermistor converts a change in temperature into resistance. So these are the things that are converting the given physical quantity into electrical quantity. And the next one is the inverse transducer. It not only converts physical to electrical signal, but also in the inverse mode, electrical to physical signal. Usually all active transducers are inverse transducers. Example, piezoelectric and thermocouple. Say piezoelectric, it converts a force into voltage. Similarly, when a voltage is given to it, it generates a force. Similarly, thermocouple, it follows both the Seebeck effect and Peltier effect. That is, whenever there is a change in temperature, it produces a change in voltage. Whenever there is a change in voltage, it produces a change in temperature. So inverse transducers are usually active, transducers are inverse transducers. Example, piezoelectric and thermocouple. And normally transducers they are converting a physical signal into electrical signal, whereas inverse transducers they act in both the way. They convert physical signal into electrical signal and then electrical signal to physical signal. Okay, so with this we are completing the types of transducers, and we will see some of the examples, that is how a transducer can be classified. So example, bimetallic strip. So it is like a strip. It actually what it will do is, whenever there is an increase in temperature, it moves from one position to another position. That is, a displacement is created. So here a change in temperature, it converts a temperature to displacement or a force. So it may be called as a temperature transducer. Why it is called as a temperature transducer? Because it is producing it measures the change in temperature. It is also it can also be called as a mechanical or a displacement transducer, because it converts the temperature into displacement. Similarly, manometer. So we know manometer. It senses a change in pressure. Usually it is employed in level measurement techniques in instrumentation. So here it converts a liquid level. Actually, when the level varies, the pressure varies, and the pressure is converted into a displacement. So manometer is, as it is used to measure level, it may be called as a level transducer. As it is converting the level into a displacement, it is called as a displacement or mechanical transducers. Some more examples. Piezoelectric accelerometer. So this piezoelectric accelerometer, it converts acceleration, that is, it converts a given force into acceleration, and then this is converted into a electrical output. So it may be called as a acceleration transducer because it is measuring acceleration, right? So it is a mechanical transducer, acceleration transducer, and it is converting into electrical output, so it is an electrical transducer. And we know piezoelectric is an active transducer. All active transducers are inverse transducers. So these are the classification, and we'll see one more example. A photovoltaic cell. We very well know that a photovoltaic cell converts a given light into a voltage. Okay, so it converts light into voltage. So as it is converting light into voltage, it is called as a resistive transducer, because the principle residing here, converting a light into voltage, is a resistive transducer. No excitation input is required, therefore it is an active transducer, and it not only converts light into voltage, it similarly converts a given voltage, it generates some light. So it is active and inverse transducers. Okay, so these are the examples. The next thing is, we'll see what are the transducer characteristics. When you are seeing the transducer characteristics, we can broadly classify transducer characteristics into two categories called static characteristics and dynamic characteristics. When you come for static characteristics, it is static error, accuracy, precision, sensitivity, reproducibility, repeatability, linearity, threshold, resolution, drift. Okay, similarly, dynamic characteristics, it is dynamic error, fidelity, speed of response, and lag. We'll see it one by one so that we have a better understanding. First, we'll go for static error. So static error. So the name itself implies error. It is a difference between the measured value and the true value. So error is equal to measured minus true value. Therefore, that's why it is called as error equal to A suffix m minus at. So we have, say, example. We'll take like this. I'm having a weight of 1 kg of apple. Okay, I'm having 1 kg of apple and I'm measuring it. The true value is 1 kg, whereas my weighing equipment, it is showing as 900 grams. Okay, so here what is our error is 900 grams, which is a measured value, 900 minus 1000. So it is 900 minus 1000, so it is minus 100 grams. So minus 100 is the error here, which is present in the measuring instrument. So usually error is comparing with the true value. It is measured value minus true value. We are very concerned with the measurand here, not with the true value. So it is measured value minus true value. Accuracy, we all know it is closeness to the true value. Say example, I am having 1 kg of apple, but whereas my weighing equipment is showing 900 grams. Whether it is accurate? No, not that much. It is minus 100 grams is the error here. So it is not that much accurate. So now I am having another weighing instrument. It is measuring us 990 grams. Yes, it is accurate because 990 is very much closer to the true value comparing to 900 grams. So the second instrument is having more accuracy than the first instrument. The first instrument is showing the 1 kg of apple as 900 grams. The second instrument is showing the 1 kg of apple as 990 grams. So I can very well say the second instrument is more accurate than the first instrument. So accuracy is always closeness to the true value or the original value. Precision. Precision is, see, not all the measurements, not all the measurement, not all the data what we are getting from instrument is accurate enough. It is degree of closeness among the measurements. That is, precision is the degree of closeness among the measurements. Say I'll take the same concept. Okay, I'm having 1 kg of I'm having a weighing machine. Okay, I'm measuring I'm taking the first machine, that is, which shows the 1 kg of apple. Okay, 1 kg of apple is 900 grams. I'm taking the first machine. Okay, I'm measuring I'm measuring n number of vegetables using the first machine. That is, I'm measuring 1 kg of pomegranate there first. It is showing 900 grams. Okay, then I'm measuring another 1 kg of grapes in the instrument. It is showing 900 grams. Then I'm taking 1 kg of banana. I'm measuring it. That also shows 900 grams. Then finally I'm taking 1 kg of orange and I'm measuring it. It is also showing 900 grams. So 4 different fruits. All these fruits are shown as 900 grams instead of 1000 grams. Whether it is accurate? No. But they are precision enough, because there is a degree of closeness. All are showing the same result as 900. But it is not accurate. So we can say some data is accurate but not precise, but some data is precise. It is not like they are accurate, they are precise. There is a good degree of closeness among the measurements, but it is not accurate. Okay, sensitivity. Sensitivity is, it is the ratio of output to input. So when you are taking any characteristics of the instrument, when I am giving an input, it will show an output. So and when you are plotting a graph, you find the slope. Okay, it is del y by del x. So del y by del x, it is given as sensitivity, the change in output with respect to change in input. So for any instrument, the sensitivity should be greater. Okay, there is also an inverse sensitivity, which is just the inverse of this case, change in input to change in output, but it is not shown here. Okay, so just you keep it in mind, the sensitivity is change in output to change in input. Reproducibility is, we know it is the name itself implies it is the ability to reproduce the same input, same output with the same measurement process, but with different operators and instruments over a long period of time. That is, you are giving us, you are going to measure only the same 1 kg of apple. Okay, 1 kg of apple. I am going to measure the same 1 kg of apple. We'll take this instance. I am going to measure 1 kg of apple with the weighing machine. Okay, with the weighing machine number 1. Okay, but with different, okay, at first I'll be using a different operator, and I'm using a weighing machine number 1. Okay, it will give you some results. Then I'll use another weighing machine 2, and I'll use a different operator. Similarly, I'll be using the third operator and a third instrument, a fourth operator and a fourth instrument. But the thing what I'm going to measure is the same 1 kg of apple. So all the operator and all the machine has to produce the same result as 1 kg of apple. If it is like that, I can say the instrument what we have designed is having a good reproducibility. Okay, repeatability, it is more or less same, but here in the first case, in the reproducibility, you are using a different operator and different instrument, but however in the repeatability, you are not using a different operator and a different instrument. You are using the same operator and the same instrument, and for a short period of time. Okay, so both reproducibility and repeatability, both are sounding same, it is different. Reproducibility is for a longer time, repeatability is for a shorter time. Reproducibility is ability to reproduce the same output with the different operator and with the different instrument. Repeatability is ability to reproduce the same output with the same operator and the same instrument. Okay, then linearity. Linearity is a relationship between input and output. So here when you're drawing a graph, when there is a relationship, when the relationship between the input and the output is like a straight line, then I can say it is a pakka linear instrument. Okay, the next one is threshold. Threshold is it is the smallest measurable input that a system can detect. Smallest measurable input that a system can detect in the sense, for example, we'll take a diode characteristics, PN diode characteristics. Okay, so the diode is forward, when the diode is forward biased, the diode will conduct. We all know this one. But however, if the diode input voltage is less than 0.7, if it is a silicon diode and if its input is less than 0.7, it will not conduct, because 0.7 is a threshold voltage. Okay, similarly, it is the smallest. So here, what is our diode threshold potential? It is 0.7. It is the smallest measurable input that a system can detect. Below 0.7, the system will not detect. So here the threshold value is 0.7. Similarly, we'll have n number of cases. Okay, but resolution is somewhat different. Threshold is smallest measurable input. Resolution is smallest measurable input change. Okay, then we'll see drift. Drift, there are two types called zero drift and the sensitivity drift. Zero drift is we very well know that it is a deviation. Drift is a deviation from the nominal or the normal characteristics. Okay, so zero drift means the deviation is taking place even in the zero, whereas sensitivity drift or a span drift is the deviation is not taking place in the zero, but the deviation is increasing with respect to span. Okay, so zero drift is the deviation is taking place, it is uniform. Also it is uniform. The zero drift is, it is uniform, the deviation is uniform and it is taking place even in zero. The sensitivity drift, the drift is not, the deviation is not uniform and the deviation is not taking place in the zero. It is called span or sensitivity drift. This is called a zero drift. Okay, then the final one is span and the range. We know range at the span. Span is the maximum value minus minimum value, whereas range is the range of an instrument from higher value to lower value. Okay, so here example, for example, we'll take a thermometer whose range is from minus 20 to 100 degrees Celsius. So when you are going for a span, it is span is maximum minus minimum. So 100 minus of minus 20 equal to 120. Okay, range is minus 20 to 100 degree Celsius. So range is, it is like a range, it is from higher to lower, whereas span is maximum value minus minimum value. So here in this case 100 minus of minus 20 is 120. The final one is the dynamic characteristics. Okay, so here the dynamic characteristics is we have seen 4 dynamic characteristics. The first one we'll see. The first one is a dynamic error. Dynamic error, then already we know the error is a deviation between the true value and the measured value. Here the true value is varying with respect to time. If the true value is varying with respect to time, then I can take it as a dynamic error, provided the static error is not considered. So always a error is a difference between the measured value and the true value. Dynamic error, the true value is with respect to time. Okay, and provided the static error is not considered. The next type of dynamic characteristic is speed of response. It is showing how fast the transducer or the device responds to the input. Okay, that is the speed of response. It is a rapidity of the measurement system, how fast the system is responding for the measurement signal. The next one is fidelity. Fidelity is the ability of the system producing output without a dynamic error. So without error, if the system is producing a output, then I can say its fidelity is good. Okay, it is degree by which the measurement system shows the changes in the measurement without the dynamic error. The next one is measuring lag. So the name itself implies it is lag, in the sense there is a delay between the input and the output. Okay, so here it is lag or time delay in measurements. There are 2 types in it. One is retardation type. Retardation type is, the name itself implies there is no time lag. Instantaneously we are getting a output. When I am applying an input, I am getting a output. Instantaneously I am getting it. The next one is time delay lag type. There is a specific time lag in measuring. That is, whenever I am giving an input, it will take some time. The transducer is taking some time to measure the output. That is called a time delay lag. Okay, so with this we are completing our today's class. Thank you.